Welcome to the 11th episode in Speaking of Poetry. I'm Rennie McQuilkin, publisher of Antrim House Books, whose authors are featured in this series. Today I am delighted to be joined by Judy Kronenfeld, who is visiting us from California. She graduated from Smith College and received her PhD from Stanford University. Judy is a professor emerita at the University of California and the author of 5 poetry collections, which include Light Lowering in Diminished Sevenths, Shadow of Wings, and most recently, Shimmer. Her poems, stories, essays, and scholarly articles have appeared in many of the country's finest journals as well as a number of anthologies. She is an associate editor of the online poetry magazine Pomelian. We are indeed fortunate to have you visiting with us today. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Rennie. It's really nice to be back east, since I was born in New York and identify somewhat with this coast, even though I've been in California for many decades now. So I'm going to read a little bit from each of my 2 recent books, Disappeared Down Dark Wells, oops, sorry, wrong title, Light Lowering in Diminished Sevenths, and Shimmer. I gave you the title of the first poem that I'm going to read, which is called Disappeared Down Dark Wells and Still Falling. For all the lucky accidents, a friend's dog butted off the mountain by a sheep to sail 1,000 feet down to the bottom of a canyon, shake himself, and crawl laboriously up, only a little dazed. The baby chortling in his car seat on the roof of the car where his mother left him until, run down by an alarmed crowd of gesticulating shoppers, she jumped out, snatched him up, and gunned off again. For all the anecdotes of luck, scooping up life from the edge of the bottomless pit of, if only I had. Like a shortstop, a line drive to the roar of the crowd. Doing the Kazatsky, balanced on top of the spinning world. For all the dazzling same-day luck, the ungod pokes someone in the chest with his bony finger, no ifs, ands, or buts, who crosses in that tiny instant an unmarked border and is lost to us. Like all who weep on the stairs or huddled in doctors' offices, choking on their words. Because when we whisper to them, we must feel the tongue dancing free in the mouth. And when we slowly turn from them, who look up now only for their own kind, the bounce in our lucky heels. The second poem I'll read is an ekphrastic poem, which is based on Edward Hopper's painting, Early Sunday Morning. As you can tell from the cover of the book, there's a certain attraction that I have to the city of my birth. This is a West Side apartment building in Manhattan. And this poem, this ekphrastic poem I'm about to read, is a kind of urban pastoral. It's sometimes difficult to read ekphrastic poems if you're not looking at the painting, so just a tiny description of it. It's a totally people-less street. A 2-story building takes up the horizontal, and the bottom level is shops, but you can't read their names. And the upper level, there are windows that are variously partly open or totally open, but you can't see inside. And there are very long shadows and an utter silence, which is totally moving for me. I should say, before I begin, that there's a homonym in the first stanza. So the first time you hear the word wrapped, it's W-R-A-P-P-E-D, and the second time it's R-A-P-T. Hopper's Early Sunday Morning. The street is still dozing, wrapped in its mystery, like a sleeper lingering in his last dream before waking, cocooned in comfortable half-consciousness. It is so pristine, the dream could be of quietly grazing wild horses in an alpine meadow in the high Sierras. The sleeper's dreamed eyes glimmering open to their hooves amidst the flare of paintbrush and fireweed as he lies in the golden dust, the cool grasses wrapped in his sleeping bag. Hushed shadow swathes facade and sidewalk. The windows wear their dark recesses with such affecting acceptance. The names of the stores blear into brushstrokes, demanding nothing. I remember a street like that, near the Willis Avenue Bridge, glimpsed from the car window as we fled Manhattan on a hot May morning. A low street, dwarfed by monoliths, seeming cool and self-possessed as an oasis. Soon, perhaps, if a lone walker passes, the barber's pole will twirl a little, as if its ribbons were held by dancers. But not yet, not for a while. Now the awnings and shades are the lowered eyelids of horses. The storefronts long stop swaying, dreamily graze. This book is a very elegiac collection, which is dedicated to the memory of my parents. But this next poem is critical of something my mother used to say about my dad. A very indulgent woman. She nevertheless was not so indulgent with him. But it's also, ultimately, I suppose, forgiving as well of her need and ours as humans. I might annotate one little thing, which is that I use the word cornstarch, and this was something that my mother used in bath water to soften it when I was a little girl and to soothe irritated skin. Soft. And the epigraph. Your father doesn't have a soft word for me, Mother says at 85. And I think how hard her wedge of words, soldiers all, pressing their old offensive position, of how fiercely we want what we neither give nor deserve, of how we might live our whole lives without it, all fault of our own, and still desire it, still desire that sense of the world reining in its force and its terror and attending to us. As silk slip of cornstarch studies the pads of thumb and forefinger, as newly velveted water says to the entering body, you are beautiful, you. As snow pear petals raining down in a balmy wind, astonish the cheek, saying, hush, hush, no cause, no cause. The title of the next poem, which segues into the poem itself, contains one of those euphemistic names given to the dementia or Alzheimer's wings of so-called retirement facilities. I've encountered several of these euphemistic names, like Encore, with one of my friend's dads. You'll hear what the name is in my case. In the reminiscence wing, when your father cries, the kite tail of pink-cheeked skaters is whipped around the bend by an unseen hand, and they all fall down on black ice like dead soldiers. When your father cries, red-toothed, red-clawed stuffed toys crawl out of the picture books like evil first amphibians. Trees bend and buckle and thrash that held up the glowering sky when your father cries. When your father cries, the sentinel statue at the prow of the park, marble-shouldered in hail and flurry, closes his eyes on the watch you didn't realize consoled you on your round home at dusk. When your father cries, you hand him the handkerchief he always kept in his breast pocket, masculinity's last nattiness, starched, arranged like a drooping flower, and stroke his bald head and hold his head to your chest, and the sun plummets down from the sky while your father cries. Well, this next poem started, in my mind at least, after attending a wedding with my daughter and my son and my family. It was the wedding of the daughter of good family friends, and I remarked to my own daughter about how lovely the women looked in their gowns with spaghetti straps, and my daughter turned to me with a kind of look in her eye that meant, "No, Mom, I don't think so. Not for you." Spaghetti straps. On my campus walk, a spring effusion of spaghetti straps, and Madonna's legacy, the inside outed, too delicate for the name of straps, tender, silky bra linguini, tomato red, celery green, slipping off creamy shoulders or tangling fetchingly with those spaghetti straps my daughter informs me I, as an older woman, cannot wear. Once, unwittingly, I draped my navy blazer on the chairback in my class. 2 pale pink shoulder pads plopped up like obscene pincushions from the costumer's shop, abruptly spotlit. The student they tickled apologized, but couldn't stop laughing each time he looked. Now I pull my jacket around me, though it's hot, thinking suddenly of Madame Goldfarb's foundation, lingerie, and prosthesis shop, where my mother bought her ordinary bras, and how the saleswoman, discussing shoulder welts, back strain, lifted her breast into the cup the way the technician lifts mine onto the plate for my mammogram, or the butcher cups the roast he's about to weigh. Thinking of how my mother's hidden back and breasts, even into her 9th decade, compared with her wizened arms and face, were shockingly alluring, olive smooth, unblemished, as I helped her into the hospital gown. And the last poem from this book, which is in fact the last poem from this book, and moves at quite a clip, so I'll make sure to take a big breath. The title here segues into the first line. Again. Company is coming, and I am in the kitchen reincarnating my mother chopping onions, only I am listening to the Gypsy Kings, and her music was clattering pans and a recitative of talking to herself while cooking. I am wiping the side of my oniony hand across my brow. I am sniffling in because my daughter is coming. My daughter is coming after many months with her newish boyfriend from Morocco. And at the door of my mind, my favorite dead uncle waits like Elijah to come in, to breathe the odors of frying liver and onions for knish filling, though I am making curry, to twinkle-eye my long-dead mother and snag the kid brother's privilege of the first and only pre-meal knish, which he'll hot potato from palm to palm, making a great to-do, breathing out ooh and ah. Behind him, my aunt, elegant and perfumed, swishing in chiffon skirts, my cousins, one of whom has long since disappeared, and in the steamy kitchen of my mind, my dead father, reluctantly be-aproned and conscripted for KP by Mom, grumbles, "Oh, Stella, now what?" and grins. What a sense of occasion they have. I have. My mother leading, her kinky hair whipped into a steel-wool cloud by her exertions, wiping her hands on her apron, lifting her cheek to accept everyone's greeting, my uncle bending to bestow my gift of Friendship Garden, bubble bath, and talc, with a fanfare of mustache tickles, my cousins offering Barton's bonbonniere, kosher for Passover truffles. What a sense of occasion. I think of them in history's little pocket of reprieve, mastering that ordinary happiness. Just a few years after my father returned in his terrifying army boots, a few years after my uncle returned, head wounded, from France. I think of us passing the rice tonight, drinking ice water, breathing the air-conditioned air, toasting our hospitable ancestors tucked in their quiet plots, while Lebanon ignites, Iraq roars, and bitter soup seethes under flashlight beams in blasted kitchens, over sticks rubbed together by the side of the devastated road. Here they are. I am kissing my daughter, embracing her friend. Take off your coats. Sit down, sit down. Oh, all you new ghosts, crowding around my shoulders, who wanted nothing more than to sit at your family's tables. Come in, too. We are living. Help us think of you. I'm going to move on now to my most recent book, Shimmer, which came out from WordTech Editions this January 2012. And I think I'll pick up that political theme by reading a couple of politically interested poems. And the first of these will require air quotes, and I'll be using them quite a bit in this and the next poem and a few other poems. They're kind of crucial, I think, to hearing the poem appropriately. This is a villanelle, one of the few formal poems that I have written. I do them every once in a while. First salvo. My heart leaps in my throat, I cannot speak. They're flaunting with the mother of all bombs. I have a daughter in the Middle East. She has 3 milk-white scars on her left knee. Surgical strikes roar fire, then the strange calm. My heart leaps in my throat, I cannot speak. Mushroom clouds ascend in air, smoke-greased. Her name is Deborah, her name Hanan, my shining daughter in the Middle East. When palms and almonds blaze beneath blitzkrieg, I see the birthmark on my son's right arm. My heart leaps in my throat. I cannot speak. Crossfire will get Johnny, a tomahawk Malik, though each one goes to battle saying psalms for his God's judgment on the Middle East. Her name is Farida, her name Denise. His name is Samuel, his name Bassam. My heart leaps in my throat. Someone must speak. My children all live in the Middle East. This next poem kind of began with something I saw, a particular kind of truck I saw on the freeway, and you'll hear what that is in the epigraph. Clean. And the epigraph. Crime Scene Cleaners Incorporated. Homicide. Suicide. Accidental death. Truck seen on the freeway, May 2007. Let them come like priests in white robes and tenderly cleanse the buttocks of a 4-year-old who shat in his pants, pressing his ears against the scream of F-16s flying low over Gaza. Order them up for the smashed skull at Haditha. The intestines spill out of back wounds. The graffiti-scrawled house where democracy assassinated a family. Let them restore the accidentally killed children fleeing on the road from Marwahin, obeying blasting loudspeakers into their deaths. Order them up for the spattered mall, the hall, the checkpoint, the crossing, the wall. Order them up for the broken-necked girlfriend left to drown in their tub by the returning Marine. Order them up for his crazed pain. Let them, with utmost respect, take down the 3 smart, creative, committed prisoners who hang themselves with bedsheets and clothes in Guantanamo. Their act, not desperation, but warfare waged against us. Let them remove the bindings around the necks, the plastic bags over the heads. Let them wash out the shot-through mouths of men revenged. Let them relief the Golden Dome. Let the war presidents and prime ministers and militia leaders for whom war is holy or righteous, abstract, mathematical, even joyous, somehow made clean in the mind, be each given one small toothbrush and the sentence, scour this blood. The next poem is a list poem, very different from these others, very short, and the title is very informative and needs to be paid close attention to. The last phrase in the poem was actually a paint color that I found on a chip in a paint store. So quick to 60 blues, new names for the paint company, ending with one of theirs. Pink tongue after blueberry slushy. Zoo mandrill bottom. Raucous scrub jay feather. Birth eyes navy. Dome of heaven. Snow shadow. Heart of flame. Ocean sky, sky ocean. Dissolve in you. Mind's end. I thought that was an amazingly creative name, Mind's End, for a very pale gray blue. The next poem seems to have some medieval motifs. There's a caparison in it, you know, the kind of covering, often velvet, that would cover the back of a horse in parades or in medieval times in warfare. I think that's all one needs to know. I'm returning to the personal. All comfortless. My daughtery father yells, "Ma," when they tie him down in the hospital, and then lip-quivering sobs, "I've always been a good person. Why are you doing this to me? Mama, help me." He is pummeling down a tunnel of dark, blurred namelessness, looking for a clearing bright as day on the other side of time. A meadow hedged in by the protection of pines, where she waits astride a courser with her stanchion and flag bearing his face. She will hoist him into her arms. He will lie down in her smell. He will drink the wind in her sleeves. His honor will be restored. I want to take a knife and slash his shackles, but his bald head is crested with a swollen bump. His rump, as if made of something other than flesh, looks as solidly purple as a velvet caparison. Here they protect him from falls, but do not protect him. His dignity a stolen and hidden treasure, and no one sets out on the quest. Outside, near the hospital steps, there is a dog who sits in the filthy lap of a homeless man with a few black teeth, muttering on the filthy sidewalk, and growls low in her throat if someone she doesn't like passes too close, and sleeps there in his lap, curled up, utterly happy. I'm going to read the last poem in the section of this book that deals with my father's decline and death. And it is nothing obviously connected to him. It's a landscape poem. Fools a bit with Frost and Wallace Stevens, but no matter. Minding desert places, winter, 4 p.m. Shadows lay themselves down on the bare hills, darkly soft, breast to breast. Every tree and bush in the wash, mesquite, creosote, tamarisk, is articulate in its loneliness. Choya blink here, there, guttering out. Light slides from the warm rock's upturned face. You still see nothing that is not there, but now you sense everything that is. There are alforzas in this poem. There are pleats, like the kind you see on Guayabera shirts, probably a little more familiar in the West than the East, those shirts. At my neighborhood laundry cleaners. The conveyor pole seems to belong to a dreary sweatshop where money and labor are clocked, with its small, discolored, numbered notches below. Wearing an undershirt flowered with holes, Pop works the press in the back. But Mom touches a button, and the clothes in their flashing plastic sheen swish forward, swaying, like a chorus line from the wings, knees lifting little sequential whitewater rushes. The Guayabera shirt, clean-breasted, with stalwart alforzas. The pathetically spotless, faded pink blouse, shoulders padded, sleeves puffed. The hound's-toothed trousers, pliable, soft. Belt loops married to ankles, pockets close-jawed. The uniforms of nurses, cops, soldiers, free of blood. Now the numbers seem to be pre-reserved slots in cleanliness is godliness heaven, and my bodiless clothes as Mom presents them, all potential, all redemption. I'll read one last poem. I have no hearing in one ear as a result of something called, medically, sudden hearing loss. Very informative name. After hearing with my non-deaf ear that it's probably stable, light slides in the waving grasses, like jeweled darning needles repairing the world. And my body in the body, hopeful, rooted, a well of calm water echoing the deep sky, sends back tiny splashes of joyful fire. And my body in the mind, running, 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 races talking streams, leaping them on slender branches wind-flung, and my pilgrim ear scoops up its scallop shell of clear sound. One day, I will be a mirror crazed out of wholeness. One day, a mirror dropped. But now, my body in the mind runs like a river over stones. My body in the body, as if healed and then some, tunes in to light's hum. Thank you. It's been wonderful to do this.
Judy, thank you. You've given us a necessary sense of history's occasional terror. We need to know that. And you've also given us, in good measure, some moments of history's little pockets of reprieve, as when your mother washed you in that soothing water and the world reigned in its terror. And she said, hush, hush, no cause. And both of those elements of life were richly present in your reading.
Thank you, Rennie.
Thank you. And I also want to thank Ken Picard and Karen Handeville, who makes this station and this program possible. And I would invite you to learn more about Judy Kronenfeld and read samples of her work on the Antrim House website. And you may also be interested in other Antrim House poets whose lives and works are described on that website. Until we meet again next month for the 12th installment of Speaking of Poetry, goodbye for now.